30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
Hi,
My name's JC McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning again. This is Jonathan Small, host and producer of All About You. And All About You is one of two different programs that I have the pleasure of hosting and producing live every single week at AccessTV.org studio. All About You is a show that's designed to let you, the viewers, know some information and details related towards the particular guest. And let me correct myself, this is actually face-to-face show. I don't know why I'm saying All About You. Face to Face is again one of two different shows that I broadcast live and host and produce live every single week at AccessTV.org studio. Face to Face is a show that's designed to ask the guests the hard questions and give you, the viewers, the answers and information that you deserve to know. This morning on the Face to Face Public Affairs Talk Show, we have a veteran in the music and television and film industry. Face Okay, I'm just trying to say. This guest has been involved with many different projects in the musical industry with some of the biggest names in the entertainment business, like Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson, just to name a few. The guest this morning is no other than the former production assistant for Quincy Jones, musical entertainment executive, also television and film producer and executive producer and owner of a television and film production company, no other than Stephen Ray. Good morning, Stephen. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm well. Thank you.
Okay, I'm doing well. Stephen, would you like for people to know a little bit more about yourself and your background briefly, or do you want to jump into our main topics of discussion?
Oh, we can jump in. I just, I've had a blessed journey, but we can jump right in.
Okay. Stephen, in April of 1982, the king of pop, Michael Jackson, decided to get together with Quincy Jones, just to name a few, and start recording and rehearsal and putting everything together for his album Thriller. You were one of the few people, along with Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson's, that was involved from the beginning of this particular recording of the Thriller album towards the end. What was your take when you first started listening to some of the tracks that Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones, to go along with other people, were working towards?
Well, being that I was there from uh, from the beginning, and not initially from the beginning,
Mm,
because they had done "The Girl Is Mine," and Quincy had a previous person working with him that he let go, and then I was interviewed and got hired. So. you know, in terms of tracks, Michael had done tracks at his house, a couple of tracks. Um, the first one that was written was Billie Jean,
mm,
but there was a demo track. We were at his house. The first day of the job, I was at his house with Quincy. I went and picked up Quincy. Quincy doesn't know how to drive. And one of the reasons I was so excited to get the job was because I knew I would have to go everywhere with him. And we went to what Quincy calls, Michael Smelly. Went up to Smelly's house over in Encino, and Greg Gaines and Matt Forger, Bruce Swedeen, uh, David Williams, the guitar player who played the really funky line on Billie Jean. They were all there with Quincy, and Rod came over with us, and that was the first track that I remember. Michael singing that with with a sketchy lyric. The lyric hadn't been completely written, only a part of the verse. Singing that live in the room, literally not on the mic, but in the room where they were working it out, and Greg Fillingham sitting at the keys. Really a special moment. I mean, it's kind of a surreal moment for me, getting the job, and that's the first day of the job. I'm in front of Michael Jackson at his house with Quincy, Quincy, who I pretty much worshipped as a musician, as a young musician in middle school, high school, and so college. But yeah, so in terms of you answer your question, in terms of tracks, there weren't a lot of tracks that were written before. Um, a lot of them, in terms of that got done when we were in the studio at Westlake.
Okay. Well, you say, because I thought I heard that there was, and you could correct me if I'm wrong. Quincy just stated, and I sent you a link to this, about 800 tracks were, I don't know what you call it, rehearsal or re recorded. I guess designed when an artist is making a particular song or album. He's, I guess, putting together a lot of different tracks, and many of the tracks actually don't make the album towards the final cut. So
Yeah,
but you're saying "The
yeah,
Girl Is Mine" was the first single that was released, but
yeah,
there had to be other songs during from April of '82, from the beginning to October, that Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones were working towards their process of putting the tracks together. How you're gonna come across? There's a lot of things that it takes to make a major album like this. Uh,
yeah. Yes, of course, yeah. But when you say tracks, people were submitting songs, like Michael Cimbello and others that Quincy has mentioned, and who wrote Carousel,
mm,
that ended up not getting on the record, and being replaced by Human Nature.
mm,
Um, there were a lot of tracks, but they weren't tracks that were recorded in the studio. There were demos that were done at Michael's house. But other people were submitting, obviously after doing Off the Wall, and that being a successful record, everyone was submitting songs for the project. So going through 800 songs, yes. Um, were 800 tracks done in the studio? No.
mm.
Uh, there were quite a few done, but and I say studio, uh, Michael was always writing, so he had a really great studio at his house. So, but no, they, you know, yeah, you have to go through that. Me doing A&R all those years, I mean, I would get tons of hundreds of cassettes back in the day. This is before CDs of people, pitching demos for all the artists that were on the label at Capitol later, where I worked after Quincy. For Tina Turner, Freddie Jackson, all these people. Um, so. But yeah, in terms of going in and laying down 800 tracks, no, 800 tracks were submitted.
Hmm.
Some of them were recorded at Michael's house, but there were demos that people were trying to get songs cut on the record.
Well, let's get towards. I mean, you mentioned "The Girl Is Mine." Obviously, that was the first release in October of 1982 with Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson. Billie Jean would actually come second, but let's pass Billie Jean quickly and go to "Beat It," because this was kind of like a new sound for Michael Jackson, like a rock record, which was something the audience or the people never really heard Michael Jackson sing. I guess a rock song, and I believe there was some friction or disagreement between Michael Jackson and Quincy towards having a rock song like this on the album. Is that correct, or is there a little bit more to it than just that?
Yeah, I don't, there's so many stories that come out now.
Mm,
Uh, sitting side by side with both of them, in terms of disagreement. Yeah, anytime you're working with an artist or a producer, whether you're the producer working with the artist and then the A&R person, in this case, the relationship between Michael and Quincy, they were so very close, and each had a vision of what they wanted this album to be and to evolve. Michael was looking to evolve away from Off the Wall.
mm,
So that's what was happening, and I don't remember any argument or anything like that. It was just a matter of, okay, you want to do this, let's figure out a way that this song will work with the other songs that are being done. Um, bringing in the great Jeff Porcaro, so one amazing, amazing drummer, um, and Lukather and the guys from Toto to come in and play on that. Um, yeah, it. I don't remember any of that, any friction between that. It was Michael was evolving
Hmm.
as an artist uh, to separate this album from Off the Wall.
Well, also Michael was really disappointed that he didn't win as many Grammys of Off the Wall, and he was determined, from what I hear, to make the greatest album ever. I mean, that was a motivating factor from what I was hearing different reports. He felt he got not justified, or he got slighted by only winning one Grammy award. I guess this is the 1980 Grammys for the Off the Wall album. But
Yes.
but when you say "Beat It" as a rock song, and then you bring in Eddie Van Halen, who is really like a guitar genius, what was the sound like? I mean, were you hearing something when "Beat It" was being recorded that you kind of never heard, or kind of stood out a little bit differently?
Yeah, I mean, Beat It. I mean, you listen to it. It's yeah. It can go under the banner as a rock song because of the time signature and but it's funky. It's
Mm-hmm.
a funky tune.
Mm-hmm.
Quincy decide the idea of Eddie Van Halen, who's a genius not only as a guitar player but just as a overall musician. Um, and him being extremely popular with because of him founding Van Halen and who they were at that time. Um, it was a perfect thing to bring him in. Um, and there's a funny story with that, and so many things have been told already. Um, but Quincy calling him and Eddie hanging up because he
Mm-hmm.
didn't believe it was Quincy calling his house. And then Quincy called again and Eddie apologized because he thought it was somebody just messing with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in and did that. I mean, but we laid those drums down over at Sunset Sound with Picaro, and it's just one of the coolest tracks. Um, really different. And yes, Michael was really upset that that album definitely deserved more Grammys than it received. Um, and but yeah, he was on a mission to not to make a record that would be impossible for the Grammys to ignore,
Mm-hmm.
to the voters to ignore.
And then when you get to the release of Billie Jean, I believe in January of 1983, and this video gets played on MTV, and the sound definitely is a disc, well, not disco, but it has a funky R&B type of unique sound to it. What was your take when you was hearing Billie Jean being recorded?
Well, the first time I heard Billie Jean, like I said to you, we were at his house,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was just a drum track, and him, Greg Fillingham sitting there, and Michael in the room, singing it with the lyric wasn't completed. He had part of the verse, he had the chorus, um, part of the first verse, and he's singing it live in the room, looking at us, and I mean, I get chills thinking about it now.
Mm-hmm.
The pulse of it, it's really, really, really special.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like other songs on the record, but Billie Jean, Human Nature, and Want to Be Starting Something, and Beat It were really, really, but Billie Jean being the uh, first song written
Mm-hmm.
on Thriller, was really quite something. When you listen to it, the energy of his vocal on everything he did, but to be in the room and have him sing that without a mic, standing there, moving, dancing, because he would dance while he was singing, which is why you hear so much energy from his vocal.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, a lot of singers get up on the mic and they just stand there and sing, but you're feeling that energy because he's doing the same thing he would do on stage, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what made him really, really special, very special.
And then, Stephen, like you mentioned, the other tracks of "Wanna Be Starting Something" and "Human Nature." Unfortunately, those two didn't have a video to it, but those two combined with "Beat It" and "Billie Jean" really gives him a dynamite start. And then if you add a solid tracks like "Thriller" and "PYT," um, "The Girl Is Mine" is a nice song, but I got to be honest, when I first heard that song, it didn't really knock me off on my feet. I didn't get the wow factor. But once I heard "Beat It" and I heard "Billie Jean," I think most of the people throughout the country could say the same thing. That's when you get that wow factor. Like, this is really a hot hit song. And then you get into 83 when the records are starting to get a lot of airplay. You're starting to see the videos. And then you get to this Motown 25 performance that he does that goes down as one of the greatest performances in music history. Um, were you happen to be at that particular event, first of all, Stephen?
Yes, it
Okay.
was really very special. Smelly, I have to call him Michael because we're doing this interview, of course,
Mm,
but um, Quincy, we all had nicknames, um, and Quincy, Michael called me Stevie, which is what my family calls me. Um, he didn't initially want to do um, that show
mm,
because, like I said, he was evolving, trying to separate himself. He wanted to do his solo thing.
mm,
And so he said, okay, you know, Quincy said, I think you should do this. I really, really think you should do this to honor, Barry Gordy, to honor your brothers and do this with your brothers. And he said, okay, I'll do it, but I want to sing my song. And that was the deal that was cut. And
mm,
that's why you see him come out and perform with his brothers. And then they leave the stage and he does Billie Jean. And then of course the game changer was him, doing the moonwalk that people hadn't seen, even though the moonwalk had been around since the 40s.
mm,
Um, Jeffrey Daniels, the great, dancer, artist that came from Shalimar, Jeffrey would work with Michael and dance with Michael, and that was a game changer. That was a game changer not only that night, but in the industry. People had never seen anything like that. Michael got a call from Fred Astaire saying that that was one of the most amazing things he had ever seen. So that blew Michael away because he was a big Fred Astaire fan, like many of us. Um, but yeah, I that was really, the whole album was a game changer. I mean, uh, MTV, as everyone knows, initially would not play any black artists
mm,
until Walter Yetnikoff threatened to pull Billy Joel and others, Springsteen and others, off of their network if they did not play Michael's Billie Jean. And once they did, Michael pretty much created the popularity of MTV. It went to another level,
mm.
and that is also that wave of single after single helped MTV become MTV to truly become what it later became, but also what it did for Thriller as an album. And it was very special. I'll just say that it was very, very special.
Yeah, it was special watching it on television, and I can imagine what it was like for you to be in the audience. He had received a standing ovation, which was really special to see. And then there's everybody talking about that performance the next day. This happened, I think it was on a Sunday. So the next day, I'm in elementary school, going back to school. Everybody's talking about Michael Jackson. You're on the street. Everybody's talking about Michael Jackson. Did you see that last night? Everything. I mean, we never seen nothing like that. I mean, maybe Elvis Presley might have been the closest thing that people might have said, but certainly in that era and
Yeah.
everything. So again, there's other tracks on this album, Thriller. This is a little bit before the Thriller video gets released in late '83. Any songs that you kind of feel maybe Carousel could have been on instead of that particular song? Maybe like Baby Be Mine. Do you think Carousel was a little
Carousel
bit?
was a really cool song. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
Michael Sabella is really, really, really talented, very talented, um, as a songwriter, as a musician. Um, but it was closer to something that would have been on off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and which is why I think some people felt about Baby Be Mine. But when you're doing a record like this, you don't want, Quincy was very smart to not have everything be high energy, something that you can listen to that's laid back. And he knew he wanted something different. Um, and that could balance the record. You had to, and that's the other reason why on that record, I mean, the philosophy was to have a song for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
right? So not all up tempo, not all funky, not too much, not rock, but to have it balanced. And when Quincy asked David Paich and Steve Porcaro if they had something that that could possibly work, there, you know, and Steve, you know, wrote what he did, and how that came was just totally a miracle and magical, um, because the initial songs that were on the cassette that Page and those guys had done, Quincy wasn't feeling, but then in those days you had a cassette and it would flip to the other side if you just let it keep playing. And all of a sudden he just hears this melody, and this has been stated before in many interviews, but I'll state it here again. um, he just hears this da 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 da, and Quincy looked over at me and went, "Whoa, what is that?" And he called Picaro, and Stephen told him the story that it was a melody that he came up based on his daughter coming home from school, and she had been picked on by these kids, and the only thing that he could say to her is that, "Honey, it's just human nature," and it stuck. And he wrote that beautiful, beautiful song, and musically. And then Quincy knew exactly who the lyricist should be to write the lyric. But Steve came up with the chorus, of course, but the great John Bettis, brilliant, brilliant writer. Um, Quincy called Chuck Kay, the famous publisher, and Chuck gave him John Bettis's number, and John wrote those verse lyrics that are so highly visual and smelly. Michael really dialed into that, um, and did that. We did that late at night. Michael was taking a nap, and we were going to leave. And about 12:30 at night, he just gets up, and Quincy says, "Oh, let's just do the vocals tomorrow," because all the vocals were done at night when it was just only five of us in the room: Rod Temperton, myself, Quincy, Matt Forger, Bruce Swedeen, and Michael. And Rod, we're sitting there, and he walks out, and he does that. And I don't remember him doing that. I remember him doing that, and literally in one take, we look back, we were looking at each other, and it was a quite emotional moment.
Mm-hmm.
But he's saying that I've asked people over the years when I've spoken about this to put on your headphones at night, and you can feel how he dialed into that lyric.
Mm-hmm.
And in such a, I get chills when I think about it now, because I had never heard anybody sing and do that. And the fact that he did it one time down was just really special.
So would you put Human Nature as a love ballad, a slow tempo song?
Human Nature is a song about, it's a love song,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and uh, you know, really, dialing into your environment. And then, of course, after Quincy and me moving to New York uh, to run A&R East Coast Capital, um, that song resonated with me on a whole other level. I had already been to New York a few times, but walking around New York at night when I was living there, that song took on a whole other uh, way,
Mm-hmm.
a whole other presence for me. And if this town is just an apple, let me take a bite. If they say why, they say why. Tell them that it's human nature. Like there are things that you in life you don't need to explain. You just
Mm-hmm.
need to feel.
Mm-hmm. Steven, it seems like wanna be starting something. It just comes across to me that Michael put a lot of energy and effort into this particular song. And I think the instrumental versions of the people that was behind it also put a lot of energy and effort into this particular song. how it was orchestrated with Quincy Jones putting everything together.
Yeah.
When this song was being recorded in the track, did you feel a certain level of energy for Michael Jackson a little bit differently than the other songs?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, when you're dealing, when you have an up tempo, the way Michael would write, he would feel it. It would come vocally. He
Hmm.
would do everything vocally, rhythmically, melodically, guitar lines, bass lines, drum stuff. And he would stand there and he was just, I there'll never be another artist like him. He was a music machine, and he did that and and the amazing Waters family that are doing those Mama Say Mama Saw backgrounds. Uh, Owen and his sisters, they're just um, they're really special people, and they already had a great relationship with Michael because they did backgrounds on the Jackson songs on Motown
Hmm.
and the Jackson Five. So they just dialed in to that, and that line, that Mama Say Mama Saw, was actually something from if I remember, from a Hugh Masekela album.
Hmm.
Michael just wanted to reuse it and do it in a way. And Jerry Hay, the great Jerry Hay, doing those arrangements with Quincy, those horn arrangements, and it was really, the hand claps, the all of it. It's just really, really to see him. I still have such vivid memories of that, not just the whole record, but especially certain songs of watching him sing Billie Jean, Human Nature, want to be starting something PYT. Um, that's really, really, yeah. I mean, the energy of it. I mean, PYT, James Ingram wrote that,
Hmm.
um, with Quincy. Quincy had, the title, and there's a whole other story around that, how that title came to be. Um, and just really, really something. But, you know, James singing that demo was really, really something. And then Michael pretty much matching what James did in his own way on
Hmm.
PYT.
And then the backgrounds, you had Janet Jackson and Latoya Jackson with their
Yeah,
versions, nah, 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 towards
yeah,
that
yeah,
song, want to be
yeah.
side
That was
side.
great. We did hand claps on that. That was a lot of fun. I was myself, James, Greg Filling Gaines, Michael, doing hand claps together.
Well,
It was
then
really.
Then Michael Jackson did some type of stomping. I don't know what they called the thing
Oh,
that was.
you mean I want to be starting something?
Yes, yes, like he was stomping on something during the
Well, that's
recording.
that's Michael. That's Michael and I, and Nelson, Michael's assistant. We're in the bathroom, and
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Swedeen laid down some plywood
Mm-hmm.
and put it up on the wall and then on the floor. So when you hear that blum blum blum, that's the three of us, and
Okay.
we had a lot of fun. We were laughing, and it was pretty. It was really great.
Uh
Another
huh.
another great memory.
Great memory. And then we get towards the end of '83, and the video for Thriller is released. And I don't know if this song really got airplay in the early part of 1983, but certainly when the video was released, it kind of is like the climax probably towards the whole album. Um, what was your take on this particular song? And did the video kind of help the song a little bit more? Maybe this was just an average song, but the video kind of made an average song possibly a great song.
Yeah, because Michael. It was so visual. I mean, Rod. Uh, you know. Uh, the original title I think was Starlight or something like, yeah. Um, but Rod being Rod Temperton,
Hmm.
the great writer, who wrote, Rock with You and wrote Off the Wall.
Hmm.
So Rod, people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize that he wrote both titles of Michael's albums. Um, and many other hits with George Benson and others, and of course coming from Heat Wave and Always and Forever and Groove Line, and I mean he was just Rod was a and he wrote 100%. He didn't co-write,
Hmm.
and he wrote that lyric. Literally, another thing that's been stated over the years now. He was in a taxi coming from the hotel over in Westwood, over from the Westwood Mark. It used to be called the Westwood Marquee, now the W. And Quincy thought, oh yeah, we got to have, you know, he called his wife at the time, Peggy, and she had a good relationship with Vincent, and and they, the great guy who he was, and he came over, and but Rod hadn't written the what he was going to rap to, basically his spoken word rap that he does, and he wrote that whole thing in the cab on the way over. But to answer your question, yes, visually it went to another level. Michael dialed into that, and had a very clear idea of what he wanted to do. And Thriller was not only a game changer for the album, but for the music industry. Michael changed music video,
Hmm.
period. There's a couple of things that happened on that record. Um, Michael pretty much created K-pop for sure. There's
Hmm.
no doubt. Everything you see with BTS and all those artists in Korea, uh, everything they're mimicking Michael Jackson, um, and Thriller. The quality of video and production that went into that, um, it's just really, really something.
Right, right. And director John Landis, you have to give a lot of credit to towards the video director
Oh yeah,
for
yeah.
Thriller
Another
putting.
another brilliant person.
Mm,
Really funny, and we had a lot of fun that night downtown, and up near Griffith Park, where he transforms into the wolf. Um, but the just the overall album itself, the support that he got from Epic and Walter Yetnikoff and them was really something. But you look at the production value on Beat It,
mm,
and you can see how it evolved from Billie Jean to Beat It, you know, to Thriller,
right.
And yeah, I was hoping that they would do a video for "Wanna Be Starting Something" because of the way the track was so funky and up tempo, and to Michael, see Smelly dance to that would have been really, really cool.
Mm,
Um, Somebody's probably going to try to do some AI thing with it
yeah.
now, but yeah,
I think the late Michael Jackson learned from that because he would make several videos on his next album. He didn't make that mistake. He only made, well, technically, he made four videos. He made a video with Paul McCartney, The Girl Is
yes,
Mine's,
yes,
Beat It, Billie Jean, and Thriller. But
yes,
he would now start to make videos from just about every particular record release from that point on towards his next Bad album. So
yeah,
so now we get to the end of 1983. If there's any doubts that Michael is at a different level that anybody may be having, certainly when you have the Grammy Awards in, I don't know which month, it was sometime in early 1984, and he walks away with 8 Grammys: Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Album of the Year. This record still stands to this day as the most Grammys ever by one artist.
yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
think
Quincy got producer of the
Quincy
year.
got
I mean, he
producer of the
really,
year? Exactly.
yeah,
But do you think the record industry or whoever had was just forced to give Michael these awards, or did he really earn? I mean, I guess he definitely deserved it. There's no doubt about it.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, from the quality of production, the songwriting. I mean, like I said, it's a very balanced record. There's literally the philosophy was it was really interesting. I'll share this. Uh, Michael's Quincy. The idea is that Off the Wall sold 8 million domestic, I think 10 million worldwide or something like that
mhm,
at the time. And the idea was like, wow, if they can do 10 million again, if they could do that just domestically and then do maybe another whatever five around the world back at that time, um, and Smelly, Michael said, jokingly, he was just like, wow, I want to sell 100 million albums. And Quincy's was like, yeah, let's do that.
mhm,
And the ironic thing about that, of course, is that it's way over 100 million.
mhm,
Um, and but the quality of it, because the idea was Quincy said, if that's going to happen, you have two records per household. You have the kid doesn't want to share the album with the parent. The parents love songs on the record, so you have two records per household. If you do two records per household, you're really going to sell a lot of records. And you got to
mhm,
remember, this is back when there was no CDs. This was cassette and vinyl.
mhm.
So it did more than two records per household if you average it out. But the Thriller did take it. The video took it to another level.
Well,
in terms of sales.
it was a number one album sale for 1983 and 1984, which is very rare. You have two consecutive years where album from the same album is the number one selling album. And I think not only that, but this now international level that Michael Jackson is moving towards, because not just he's known in the United States and a few countries borders, but he's pretty much now becoming an international celebrity, international star. And the video of the Pepsi video coming together, meeting President Ronald Reagan at the White House, this type of new stardom that he was experiencing, do you have to say it comes from Thriller alone, or was there other factors beyond even the Thriller album that was making Michael Jackson this type of international superstar?
Well, I think it's, it was certainly a buildup. He already had a base from, and I want to definitely give a shout out to all the success he had with his brothers as the Jackson Five and later the Jacksons, and what they did at Motown and what they did initially at Epic. But then it went to another level with Off the Wall, and it was a buildup. It's almost like, when there's a tsunami, you know, uh, there are things happening in the ocean that people are not aware of, and then all of a sudden, that wave, those waters withdraw, and then they come back in at a million times the power. And I think that's what happened. I mean, for me, that's, being a kid, uh, having a poster of the Jacksons in my room, never imagining, but pretty much trying to really, I look back on that now, manifesting, working with him and Quincy. I had a poster of Quincy in my room, him and others that I later ended up working with, uh, because of Quincy. It's really, really, that's what it was. It was a buildup. But then Thriller then becoming the song for Halloween. Now you got to think about this. How long has Halloween been around? But now around the world, everyone does the Thriller dance, literally around the world. Um, so it went to another level. That's when that music wave of Michael Jackson's artistry, with the support and guidance and of Quincy, it went to another level. When people work together like that, where they really get each other, their souls get each other creatively, they really, and all the other amazing musicians, that worked on those records. Um, there was so much love in the room, every day, every morning. Everybody got a hug. We come in. When you have that kind of trust and compassion, great things are created. Whether you're on a film, where you're in a studio and making music, on a TV show, it's just, whether you're a race car driver, your team, if everybody's on the same page, and supportive of each other, um, great things can happen.
And then after this point, Michael becomes a magnet, because if you remember, I think it was what, 83. Also, Rockwell did the song "Somebody's Watching Me," and Michael just has one verse. But I don't know if people are listening to the record because of Rockwell, the singer, or Michael Jackson. Because
Well,
would
yeah.
you say that? So I mean, who are you really listening to the song for? To be honest, I say it was a good song. Rockwell, is that his name? Barry
Yeah,
Gordy's son.
yeah, that's
Okay,
the thing.
that's
Yeah,
his name.
yeah.
I mean,
That was Barry's family, Barry's son.
yeah.
Um, and Michael's vocal just takes everything he did, goes to another level vocally when he sings vocally, when he's doing his thing. He also, his wonderful sister, Rebe, he sang on her record, and that became a hit. Um, so yeah, you know, he's just, he brings an energy to things that very few do. When somebody dials in like that, uh, you know, it does go to another level.
Well, also he was very generous, because when the Jacksons formed together in 1984 and they did another album, I believe he backed off. He didn't want to participate in the torture video because he did. I guess he wanted to bring some attention to the other brothers, because obviously everybody's looking at Michael, and it was a great, video how it was kind of put together. But he really didn't want to steal the spotlight. I mean, there's other stories I can say about Michael Jackson too. That even in '87, he was ready to release his album Bad, but he didn't want to take away sales of Janet Jackson's album that came out from that '86 to '87 period. So he was kind of real generous with his family members on trying not to steal the attention as well.
Yeah, they were coordinating that. I mean, Janet being on A&M and
Hmm.
my two friends, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. That album was really special, and he really was so excited for Janet.
Hmm.
Uh, and he loved that record. I mean,
Hmm.
he loved that record because it's a great record. But yeah, he wanted to. He came to New York and did the video for Bad, and but yeah, and he toured right after that. And but yeah, he was very he wanted success for every family member.
Hmm.
Um, and that's just because his mother Catherine, whom he called mother, um, is so loving and so you know Michael was really a special human being, and and when you go from selling the records that he sold on Off the Wall to what he sold on Thriller, uh, that's a lot. That's a lot. There's the Michael that worked on Thriller, and then there's the Michael post Thriller,
Hmm.
and there's a lot that comes with that. A lot of responsibility. The world is now watching every little move you make, and he did so many good things around the world for so many people. In
Hmm.
terms of feeding people and just some wonderful things he did, employing a number of individuals on tour. Uh, but yeah,
Well, I mean, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. But first of all, I got to clarify something. This is a mistake on my part. This show was supposed to be face to face. I must have made a mistake sending the information of All About You. And I really feel bad because I don't bring the same guest back twice on All About You, where I would bring the same guest back on Face to Face. So this show should have been called Face to Face. Face to Face, yeah, not All About You, the biographical show. But
right, right.
I'm going to figure a way to get you on All About You to have your life story because you have a tremendous life story as well.
Yeah.
But as we're wrapping up, the assessment of Thriller, would you say Thriller? It's no doubt it's the number one selling album of all time. But is it Michael Jackson's? And this is where you get into debate at. Many people say Off the Wall was the better of all of his albums. But how would you rate Thriller towards Michael Jackson's quality as well as the record sales? Obviously, the record sales stands out number one. But what about the quality of this album?
Well, technology evolved. I mean, I play I play off the wall as just as much as I play Thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't ever compare them
Mm-hmm.
because it's like comparing a child, at 10 to the child that's 13 that becomes a teenager. Um, they're different. You don't love them any less, but they've evolved. And Thriller was the evolution of who he was, his relationship with Quincy, the way it was recorded. Bruce Swedeen was just not only a just extremely talented individual, him and Matt Forger, his assistant engineer, and all those great, musicians, a few that are no longer here, sadly, um, that, Ndugu on drums, Leon Chancellor Ndugu, Louis Johnson on bass, Jeff Beccaro on drums, uh, Ndugu's the one on Billie Jean, Jeff on Beat It and others. Lewis played bass on everything. David Williams, the great David Williams, funky guitar that had played with the Jacksons before Thriller. Um, it When you have all of that, there's an evolution, and I don't compare because things are evolving. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think when you listen to the recording of Off the Wall, and then you will listen to the recording of Thriller in the headphones. Technology is evolving, And I will say this, the miracle of Thriller, really, when you listen to all these things now, is that there was no automation back then.
Mm-hmm.
So when there's no automation, everybody's standing at the board moving the faders, you know, mixing. And the quality of it is really, really what Bruce Swedien did, with Quincy and Rod and Matt in that room with Michael, of course, is very, very special. So, and that's why Bruce won the Grammy for engineering, for that record, I mean, he won so many Grammys because of the quality of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't compare them. To answer, to answer that, I don't compare them. I love them both. Um, and but because I was in the room, uh, you know, just like our podcast that I do with Anthony Marinelli we did 10 episodes of uh, Thriller Stories in the Room, where we interviewed the musicians that are still with us on the album and the experience of being in that room. So it's very personal to me. I wasn't there for Off the Wall, and but I later heard stories that Quincy shared with me and Michael shared with me and others. But different drummer, JR, the great John Robinson on drums on Off the Wall,
Mm-hmm.
but Quincy switched it up on Thriller. So, you know, it's the evolution, and when things evolve, I don't really compare. Some people do that. You look back and go, "Oh, that was really great," but I just don't. It is what it is
Yeah.
when it existed.
Well, that's a great way. I always like trying to find a great positive way to end a particular show, and you definitely educated me that I shouldn't be looking at trying to compare Off the Wall and Thriller. They are two different albums, and you need to accept both of the albums for what it came out to be. Obviously, Michael was highly motivated towards redeeming himself to win more Grammys and put his album as the greatest album of all time, and he certainly did both of those areas. And you provided Stephen an excellent presentation this morning on the All About You show, but this is really more like a face-to-face public affairs show. We're going to obviously clarify that and get you back on at some point in the new year. But I ask every guest every single week if there's any last things that they would like for people to know about their self or what they're currently doing or what they would like to do. Feel free to express yourself.
Yeah, I'm currently, I music started going to a place that it just wasn't. For the most part, there was a time period in the early 2000s that I just wanted to go into another medium and creatively. Um, and then later, I didn't fully go then, but you know, I love narratives. Whether they were initially songs, lyrics, but now I love the narrative of storytelling in terms of television and film, and I'm excited to do what I'm doing now, which is developing uh, television series and film. And we're doing a film with Delroy Lindo and Andre Holland and Melanie Laurent and John Turturro in New York with the great Dan Al Grant directing. And so I'm really excited about that. And I'm an executive producer on that with Whoopi Goldberg, producer Stan Erdrich. So we're doing that next year. And there are other things going on that I'm excited about. Um, uh, but yeah, it's
Mm.
just like I said, it's all about the evolution of it. I still get called to consult for music and things, and like I said, I've had a very blessed journey, and I'm very humbled by the miracle of the way I started my career, working with who we call Jones. I didn't call him Quincy, and working with Ed Eckstein, who ran his companies at the time I was hired. Ed and I, we call him Jones, and Ed is the son of Billy Eckstein, and Quincy's godson is Ed Eckstein, and we're all family. So those of us who are still here, we're all very grateful
Mm-hmm.
to
Well,
have to be here and to keep it moving.
mm-hmm. Well, obviously, man, you were part of history from an album that is historically the greatest selling album of all time. You work with one of the greatest, if not the greatest, producers. Now you're telling me you connect with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who they could be the greatest producers. So you running some strong A-list companies to go along with yourself being an A-lister. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate you giving up your time this morning, coming all the way from California to be a guest on the All About You talk show. And again, it should have been the face-to-face talk show. Yeah, yeah, but we're going to clarify that. Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
the owner
Yeah,
of the network
I'd
said
be
he was
honored to come
doing.
back. If you wanted me to come back, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah, because you have a tremendous bio, man. That's I'm really impressed with as well, and I would love to bring you on the All About You talk show. But keep up the good work with what you're doing, man. This was a great interview on your part towards your presentation, and I really appreciate you being a special guest this
No,
morning.
thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
man.
Okay. All right, this is Jonathan Small. Just enjoyed hosting this edition of the All About You talk show with the special guests. He is the former production assistant for Quincy Jones. He's also a music entertainment executive. He's also a television and film producer, executive producer, no other than Stephen Jones. And he really broke down the historical 1982 Thriller album. He was right in the inside from the beginning to the end, just about in every category. And it was our honor here on AccessTV.org network to provide you with this particular guest and topic. Currently, I'm working on putting together another show for next week. I don't know if it's going to be all about you or face-to-face, but when I do see you again, for viewers out there, have a very blessed day and keep the faith. Thank you.
I like
Oh, okay, and that's enough.